Welcome back, everybody. Hope everyone is doing well. My name is Jason, and I will be your host on this CFL talk show, Hussey's Huddle. What's up, guys? It's been a while. I've been so sorry about all the lack of uploads lately on the channel the last few weeks. I've really just had time to do the bare minimum, the game picks, and just my little bit of a reaction to the games themselves, because I have a job that I work around 24 hours a week at right now, and I also am taking full-time school at the same time, so trying to balance it all. It's just been a kind of a disaster so far this year during the CFL season, and it hasn't gone exactly the way I've hoped, but next week I actually am off. I actually have a reading week for college, and so I will be doing more of those kind of deeper dive videos. I'm planning to do a video where I talk about my favorite players on every CFL team, so look out for that one. It'll be a nice lighthearted video. And in this video, I just kind of wanted to go over my reactions to last week's games, just so I can get them in there, just to kind of complete my thought process week to week. I know I haven't done power rankings, which I kind of abandoned that series just because, again, time restraints, and I really apologize for that. And I think every week, with only being 9 teams, there wasn't a ton of movement every week in the way I perceived every team. Even though they are kind of fun to put together, I didn't have a ton to say every week about every game. So that's honestly why I stopped doing those. I plan on doing more advanced weekly videos the next season that we have, but honestly, right now, all I really had time for is doing the game picks and the takeaways from every week. And the 10 takeaways videos, I haven't really had time to do in recent weeks here. So I apologize about that, guys. Honestly, I really wish I had more time to devote to this channel as of right now. And I am committed to this channel to bringing you guys consistent week-to-week CFL content. I really am confident that at certain points of this channel, we were giving the best CFL content on YouTube, and I really appreciate all your support. And again, I'm just really thankful for you guys sticking with me through all this. It's been a very busy time in my life, and with that said, I'm going to get into last week's games, and I'm just going to go over every game and just give my my initial thoughts on what I take away from every game, like I normally would for every team. So starting with Ottawa and Edmonton, and what can you say about this one? What a shocker. Ottawa finds a way to kind of save their season here, going to 2-5, beating Edmonton again. And for Ottawa, obviously it's all about Caleb Evans. The new blood at quarterback really made all the difference. But I think the side note for me is that Paul LaPolice, the head coach, who I think a lot of people were starting to say he's just a bad coach. I mean, it didn't work out in Winnipeg when he was the head coach there. I mean, yeah, ultimately went back as an offensive coordinator, worked out pretty fine. But now going to Ottawa, really got off to a really rocky start this season, couldn't fix this pretty terrible offense. But I think that game last week really was a display of how good of a coach he was, really made his young quarterback, making his first career CFL start, dressing for his first career CFL game, very comfortable early on in that game. And I think the mobility from Caleb Evans really stood out. I thought Dominic Davis was a relatively athletic quarterback at the CFL level, can move around a bit. But Caleb Evans, man, I just saw a lot of potential in terms of what Paul LaPolice can do. He worked with Chris Streveler back in 2019, and seeing what he can do with the mobility of this offense, move the pocket, really make the most of this poor offensive line they have over there in Ottawa. And I really am excited to see what this team does this week when they have 2 games to play against Toronto and Montreal. They really could turn their season around. And then for Edmonton, what a grease fire right now. A lot of finger pointing. Brock Sunderland, the GM. Jamie Elizondo, the head coach. Who's to blame for this whole mess? I think everybody is partially to blame for this entire organizational failure this season. I mean, I'm not going to lie to you. I picked this team to win the Grey Cup at the beginning of the season. I think on paper this team was absolutely loaded at a lot of positions, but it just completely fallen apart. And with their upcoming schedule, they play Winnipeg still 2 times, and I just don't see how they can really string together enough wins to get into playoffs here, and it's going to be really, really tough for them. to probably miss the playoffs here. Trevor Harris is coming back this week, but again, they're playing Winnipeg, so I really don't like their chances there. Again, there are a lot of talented players on this team, and I think that it's just been a massive underachievement this season. They just haven't really gotten off the ground. They let a key guy from a veteran leadership standpoint, Armando Sewell, walk in free agency this year. I think that was potentially a bad move from a team culture standpoint for this team. And honestly, I just don't know where the Edmonton Elks go from here. I think somebody's going to get fired, whether it's the GM, the head coach, both of them. I don't know what's going to happen with this team. I mean, if it gets bad enough, I think they both go for sure. But honestly, I don't know where they go from here, and I'll be the first to tell you I'm very disappointed in the Edmonton Elks because I picked them to win the Grey Cup this year. And then Friday between the BC Lions and the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. So BC Lions, the big takeaway is obviously the injury to Lucky Whitehead, leading receiver in the Canadian Football League going into last week. Really the breakout star of the entire league. And it's just so sad to see him go down to injury, honestly, because this offense was rolling. And I think that's really the big thing going forward. Can he get healthy? Because he added a new dimension. Even though I think that Brian Burnham is the best receiver in the CFL, Lucky Whitehead really takes a lot of pressure off him. He gives Mike Riley that outlet deep down the field and gets those easy after-the-catch yards as well when you can get the ball to him on those little swing passes here or there. And another takeaway for BC, honestly, is the offensive line really went back to 2019 form in this game. I'm really, really interested to see how they bounce back from that because it could obviously potentially just be the matchup with Winnipeg. A lot of teams have struggled against Winnipeg's defensive line this year. But I think that BC, we've seen in these couple really, really big games this year where they had a chance to really make a statement, especially in these home games where I think they've been a better road team, if I'm not mistaken, than a home team so far this year. I think that BC, from an offensive line standpoint, they have really struggled in those games. You think back to where they played Edmonton. One of their losses was against Edmonton. Really disappointing game. Probably their most disappointing loss of the season so far. So I'm really interested to see how this BC Lions team reacts going forward. They're on the bye this week, which will help Lucky Whitehead potentially miss one less game. So we'll see how that goes for this team going forward. But that's my opinion about the BC Lions from their week 9 game against the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. And then for Winnipeg, they just look like the best team in the league. The only ones that are going to stop them are themselves. Are there going to be injuries with this group? They just need to continue to stay healthy. But they're just so well-rounded on both sides of the ball. I think this secondary has played well above my expectations for them this season. I thought that was going to be the weak point of this team this season. And then, honestly, I think offensively, Zach Collaros is just a different guy this year. I mean, I haven't seen him play like this since his would-be MOP year in Hamilton. So I think that the only team that's going to be able to stop this team is the Winnipeg Blue Bombers themselves if they self-destruct because of injuries. I think that's going to be the big question with this team going forward. But I don't think there's any team that's really shown the ability to consistently compete other than Toronto, who knocked them off their one loss of the season, which was really one of those back-to-back situations where it's really hard to beat a team twice in a row. So that is really what I take away from the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. They're just a dominant force right now. They've really become a juggernaut this CFL season. And then Hamilton, Montreal, really, really exciting game. I went to this game myself. Tiger Cats fan, you could see the foam finger here, but I love CFL football, and this was really a great example of it. What a play from Vernon Adams to Eugene Lewis on a 3rd and 20 to win the game for Montreal. So I'll start with them, just showing a lot of heart in this game, and it's really why Montreal is such a frustrating team for me, because they have the ability to do this. They have the ability to put together incredible offensive plays in spurts, and they have the offensive personnel to do it. They have one of the best receiving corps duos in the league this year in terms of the deep passing game in Eugene Lewis and Jake Weineke. And then you have the best running back, in my opinion, William Standback. And I think that combined should give you an elite offense on a weekly basis. But at the same time, a lot of this game, Hamilton's defense was giving them trouble. But late in this game, they had a gut check. They found a way to win. And that's exactly what they needed to do. They could not afford to fall to 2-5, where they would be in a potential, we better sweep Ottawa or else we may not make the playoffs. So I think that was super crucial for this team. Going to 3-4, they're really right in it. Going to a Thanksgiving game against Ottawa this week. And I'm really excited to see if this team can show any kind of consistency. I think they could be one of the better teams in the CFL the later half of the season because honestly, they have the personnel to do it. And then for Hamilton, honestly, all due respect to Montreal, but Hamilton completely blew this game, giving up a 3rd and 20 with guys all surrounding Eugene Lewis in the end zone. Couldn't make the play to save it. And then they drive down the field and remarkably hit this 55-yard field goal. What a kick. One of the most amazing kicks I've ever seen in person. Probably the most amazing kick I've ever seen in person, actually, between NFL or CFL. And they force overtime here, but the freaking disappointment in overtime with the fumble, just really self-inflicted stuff from the Hamilton Tiger Cats late in this game. And they really should have walked away with a victory, should have went to 5-3 on the season, but instead they face a borderline must-win game against Toronto next week. But my big takeaway from the Tiger Cats in this game was really that Brandon Banks, he just isn't the same guy that he was in 2019. I mean, it's been a couple years since then. The layoff, he's a little bit of an older player. I think he's 34. And it just seems like he's just not the same guy this year. He hasn't looked healthy all year. Obviously, this is his first game back from injury, so we'll have to see how he does going forward. But honestly, he hasn't been the same guy in the 5-game sample size we've seen this season. And honestly, it's starting to become a little bit concerning as a Tiger Cats fan. Braylon Addison, I think I've always thought he's the more complete receiver between the two. He made his season debut this week, looked really, really good in this game. But Brandon Banks, if he's not right, I don't think this Tiger Cats offense is explosive enough to win the Grey Cup. Honestly, I think that is a big concern for the Tiger Cats going forward, and that's what I take away from this game. Just from a bigger picture perspective, I think he only had like 4 catches for 14 yards or something like that in this game. And then finally, Saskatchewan and Calgary. I picked Calgary with the upset here, and it went my way, but it almost didn't because Saskatchewan came roaring back late in the fourth quarter of this one. Brilliant onside kick by Brett Lawther to give them a chance late in that game, and then Cody Fajardo ultimately throws the interception that seals the deal here. But it's a great game that could have honestly went either way. Calgary got off to that hot offensive start early in the game. It's like Bo Levi Mitchell's back, baby. But then that offense just stalled late in this game in the second half, and that's the concerning part for Calgary. Can they keep it going for an entire full 60 minutes on offense? And we just haven't really seen that complete game from this team so far this season. Maybe the closest one we saw was when Jake Mayer was at quarterback making his first start against Montreal. But with Bo Levi Mitchell at the helm this season, they just haven't looked consistent enough on offense. They're dealing with a lot of injuries. Bo himself is dealing with a shoulder issue again now, which is terribly concerning because of his history with that and the surgeries he's had on that shoulder. So Calgary, they get the job done. They effectively saved their season, but now they got to go right back and go to Saskatchewan this week. And I'm really excited to see how this Calgary Stampeders team continues to respond to adversity because their job's not done. They got to dig themselves out of that 2-5 hole that they caused, but they moved to 3-5. And if they can get the win against Saskatchewan this week, it would do wonders for helping them push their way into the playoffs this season, which is really not that far out of reach with BC dropping a few games here. And then for Saskatchewan, I mean, a lot of people giving Cody Fajardo heat for how he was talking about his receivers after this game and kind of throwing his receivers under the bus. And all I got to say about that is I think that's competitive nature. I think it's not right to throw your teammates under the bus, but I think that from an accountability standpoint, I think that somebody has to speak up in those circumstances. This is a game Saskatchewan probably should have won in hindsight. On paper, they were pretty much a pretty heavy favorite in this one. And I think that Saskatchewan, if they're a team that a lot of people want to take seriously as the main threat to Winnipeg, and we obviously saw how those matchups went, we need to see them win these types of games consistently. And Cody Fajardo really has to, I love the guy, but he really has to play more consistently in these games against these teams that they should beat. And that's ultimately my takeaway from the Rough Riders in this game. I really want to see what they can do in the rematch this week against Calgary, and I expect them to win. Spoiler alert for my game picks, but I really need to see Cody Fajardo and that offense play a lot better football. I think the defense was fine last week, but that is what I take away from the Rough Riders in that game. But with that said, those are going to be my takeaways from Week 9, everybody. And once again, I want to apologize for my lack of uploads. I appreciate everybody who's still watching the videos and supporting me through all of this, and I greatly appreciate it. And you guys will be rewarded. There will be more videos and more creative videos coming in the coming months, especially when we get to the off season here. I know we're only halfway through this season, but I think in the off season I'll be doing a lot more bigger topic videos for the league, and doing a lot more of those deep dive analysis. I'll take video suggestions from everybody in the comments. And also another thing, if you guys are still watching this point in this video, I am wondering if anybody would be interested at any point later on this season of doing a live stream where I can't obviously stream the game for copyright reasons, but doing a stream where I can just react to the game and we can just hang out and talk during the game. I wonder if anybody would be interested in that, and what day of the week would work best for you in terms of being able to watch that. And let me know about that in the comments section, guys. And I really appreciate all the support once again. And with that said, have a great day, everybody. Peace.